A new, seemingly throwaway line from actor Norman Reedus seems to indicate that we may be getting a Death Stranding sequel after all. IGN's Brazilian website reported on a quote garnered from Portuguese language movie website Adoro Cinema. There, Reedus is quoted as saying, quote, "I think we're doing a second Death Stranding. The game is in negotiations right now," end quote, and that's about it. As deftly noted by website Video Games Chronicle, this isn't the first time Reedus tacitly acknowledged a future project with Kojima, but noting that Kojima's relationship with Reedus actually began during the aborted Silent Hills project, it's possible he was talking about something else at that time. There's no question what he was talking about here, though there is some skepticism about the source. It should also be noted that Reedus isn't a stranger to video games or nerd culture. Rising to fame due to his starring role in The Walking Dead, Reedus has been around gaming and parallel industries for years and knows that anything said about a game or other product will be reported, so that he's willing to speak so openly is interesting. As for Kojima, his current status is unknown, though he has been long rumored to be working on an Xbox project. Should Death Stranding 2 come to fruition, it's possible that his studio, Kojima Productions, is working on 2 games at once. Death Stranding launched exclusively on PS4 in late 2019 and was a notable PC port when it migrated in 2020. A notable second-party game, Sony funded Death Stranding and owns the IP and is on the cusp of re-releasing it in so-called director's cut form on PlayStation 5 in September. So, what do you make of this? I think the big part of the story here is that Norman Reedus damn well knows how to speak in the gaming industry and in nerd culture. It's not something where you're flippant, and he should know that. So that he's willing to openly talk about it, I think is interesting. And I just, because some people were like, oh, maybe he was talking about director's cut. I don't think so. Maybe he was talking about another game. Well, he said Death Stranding, another Death Stranding. I think that must mean that there is going to be another one. And I think, as I've said before, and I wish Chris was on for this specifically, because I know that he's going to have a lot to say about a possible sequel. But I think Sony lets Kojima walk away from them entirely at their peril. And if this is the game that's necessary to keep him, then you just do it. And maybe there is more. I think Death Stranding is fantastic. So maybe there is more to be said and done in this world. I don't know. So what do you think? Do you think Norman Reedus is accurate? I don't know why he would say this if not.
Yeah, it is weird because I think you're absolutely right in that he should know better. Let's look at this quote exactly again. "I think we're doing a second Death Stranding. The game is in negotiations right now." I mean, if we really want to pick this apart, maybe Kojima reached out to him to find out his availability, and then he took that as a sequel, and maybe it's something else. I don't know. I feel like I
just doubt it. Right?
I doubt. Yeah, it's doubtful. So I really hope not. Because, and I think we've had this discussion before, I feel like Death Stranding is a fantastic, complete experience for the entire story. And so I just don't know. I don't want a sequel to that game. I want to see Kojima do something totally new. He's weird. He's does really unique stuff. And I want to see him do something new instead of, just build upon what he already made with Death Stranding. I guess that's kind of his thing, though. I mean, he made Metal Gear for over a decade, well over a decade. So
he made Metal Gear for 25 years.
25 years. Yeah. So maybe I just feel like, he got unshackled from Metal Gear. Don't, why would you want to do this? Unless maybe I'd love to be wrong where it's like Death Stranding 2, let's say that does come out. He does have a really interesting, unique idea and is able to prove it. Awesome. But I'd rather have something different.
Yeah, it's more like 30 years, really. I mean, Metal Gear came to MSX in like the mid to late 80s. So, and of course he did Snatcher and Zone of the Enders and others, but that was what he was best known for. What gets me interested about Death Stranding 2 is just this idea, whatever it's called, that maybe it's just a totally different game. I mean, we got to see the world, but there's no reason why you have to interact with that world only as like a delivery or courier service. There's a bunch of other things you could do in the world, right? So maybe it's cool to go back in there and explore that from a different way, because who would have known that we would have explored this post-apocalypse as a courier? So maybe he has something else up his sleeve like that. I just don't on one hand, Sony doesn't invest in anything that they don't want to sequelize. They've been open about that, and everyone's open about that. So I think that it's always been in the cards that there would be more than one Death Stranding. if possible. But I don't think the sales of Death Stranding demand a sequel. That's what I find so interesting, and why I think that this might be a way for them to keep Kojima from not working with them at all. And so who knows? We'll see what happens. But I agree with you generally. I wouldn't want, if given a choice, I'd want him to do something else. But
Right.
I feel like he likes the comfort of doing things over and over again. Like, even Sony the Enders had a couple of games in the franchise, and no one played those games. So I feel like he likes the confines of something where he can explore and make things up as he goes along. And I suspect someone like him has a lot of regrets about the games they make and a lot of things that they would do and change differently. And so I think that's why he goes back over and over again.
Right.
And because remember, Metal Gear Solid 2 was supposed to be the last Metal Gear. He said after every one of those games, 2, 3, 4, Peace Walker, they were the last ones.
Right.
He said about all of those. So there's no reason to think he wouldn't go back to Death Stranding. And I think Sony would be stupid to let him walk away. And obviously you wouldn't do Death Stranding without him, and Sony owns the IP, but it's kind of, see, that's what's so interesting is that the IP is owned by Sony, but worthless without Kojima.
Right.
So
yeah,
it almost doesn't even matter.
They wouldn't want to pull like what was it, Metal Gear Survive, and try to make a Death Stranding Survive. Let's go.
Yeah,
that would be horrible. I
still want to play that game. I have it. I still want to play it. I bought it for. I have no idea why I bought that game. It was I bought it because it was like $5.
Yeah,
I think.